Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. Host is JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest. We know him as Just Joe in the WWE. He is, of course, a former NWA World Tag Team Champion, CWA as well, Mr. Joe E. Legend. Joe, welcome back. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, what is going on in your world? What is the latest? I see a new book has come out.
Yeah, but I wrote it forever ago, and it's not even really completed. I'd signed a 5-book deal for the autobiography, and then it got shortened down to three longer books instead of 5 smaller books.
Yeah. Yep.
And so there was a bunch of hassles with other publishers and stuff from way back when. So we just kind of sat on it for a good long time. I sent it to my co-author, and she had it on file, and I didn't think much of it. My birthday, September 2nd, she messages me and says, "Yeah, your book's pretty much ready to go." I'm like, "Hey, like we haven't even really spoken to this thing in probably 2 years."
Yeah.
And then I think 2 days after that, she's like, "Okay, it's released. Here's the link." So,
Wow.
okay, this is book 1. It's called Joey Legend, and no, I haven't heard of you either. Tentatively planned, the second book will be Joey Legend. Well, that didn't go to plan, and the third one will be Joey Legend. You just get to the effing point.
Love it. I love that.
I like funnier titles than Tripping the Light Fantastic or something so presumptuous like that. I find that annoying. Make it funny.
Yeah, I like that. A little poking fun, humor doesn't hurt. It's very, very cool. So how come they were like saying, "Oh, we don't know when it's coming out," that all of a sudden it's out? Like, what was the holdup? What were they doing?
Well, it wasn't really a holdup. I'd written like a lot of chapters. I think I've written 40-something chapters of it. And then I'm involved with like my partner there. I'm not sure what name, like her author name is Crystal McCarrington, but she's since gotten married. So I don't know if she's using her married name professionally or not. So we'll just go with McCarrington for now. We're involved in a couple of movie projects and TV projects from books we've done. And so we've kind of been focusing on that. And I just pushed the autobiography into the background in my mind because I thought, well, these are kind of more urgently needing our attention. And I didn't realize that she's just such a workhorse that she'd been sitting back and editing it and piecing it together and doing everything that needed to be done. We had a guy named Jim on there as well, who was tremendously helpful. I didn't know how much everybody had put all their time into it because I thought it was on the back burner. I was like, leave it be. We'll get to it. And instead, they surprised the heck out of me. And, my 56th birthday, I wind up with an autobiography out.
Very cool. So where can everybody find it? We'll talk about it again, but where can everybody find it to get it?
Right now, it's available on Amazon. It's in hardback. I think the soft cover just come out, and I'm pretty sure there's a Kindle version on its way. I know the hardcover is because I don't even have a copy of it yet. That's how surprised I was of it. But when I went to teach one of my wrestling classes here at Hanover a couple of days ago, 2 of my students in there showed up. "Can you sign this for me?" So apparently they're ready to go. Just none of them have gone my way.
Man, the students are getting it before you get it. That's not a good sign, right? But I mean, it's cool, but again, it's not a good sign.
I guess I'm not that important to the story.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, well, what the hell? I'll get one eventually.
So when you're like, obviously, you will hopefully get a copy soon, though.
Yeah.
What's the first book? Like, what's the differentiating? Are you going year by year, or is it different stories, or are you kind of just going all the way through your career?
Well, the first one, once again, I haven't seen how much they've cut off from it, but it's from the time my dad took me to my first wrestling match in Toronto. There's a limited amount of stuff about my background in the martial arts and such. And then it goes through, I believe, my time in South Africa and a bunch of the Michigan Indies, ICW for Malcolm Monroe, and some stuff in Boston, I believe. But yeah, it's mostly like indie stuff leading towards when I finally signed up with WWE. I think there's some stuff from when I went to FMW in Japan as well.
Is there like as far as them breaking up the book, is there like why she broke it up a specific way? Is that to lead you to the next one, to the next one?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if they had like a page quota or something in order to get the size of the book they wanted to get out. And you know, I'm a mouthy guy. I got plenty of stuff I can say. So I mean, we'll just add to it and add to it, add to it as we keep going, and you know, hopefully I keep people interested.
What's going on with the wrestling school? What's going on with that as far as today?
Well, we have the CWP Catch Wrestling Promotions. We're kind of a handshake back to the CWA days, Autovance and all that, because it was CWA and then EWP kind of took over from there, and now it's CWP. We had some issues with a guy who was part of the management. We got rid of him, and we decided to rebrand rather than carry a lot of that other stuff on our back. So we got the wrestling school, I'm teaching there Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we're running events 5 or 6 a year, building up. We got a great roster of young guys, a couple of girls too, a couple of really talented girls. And our first bigger show, we run it at a place called X Fights, which is a Krav Maga fighting gym. And then our first big show is coming up in December. I want to say it's the 12th. But anyway, but we're bringing in Rhino and Mark Haskins to fill out the whole thing, and we're going to fill up the heavyweight title. We've got an Intercontinental Championship match, Tag Team Championship, Breakthrough Championship, and a bunch of the young guys are just going to tear it down. We did a show, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and the crowd was crazy for the whole thing. It's just, Hanover's always been a great wrestling town. And, when you change the name of the promotion, you change things, you risk kind of turning the crowd off because they might think it's a new product. They want their traditional product. But the Hanover fans are so dedicated that, they're there at every show. And actually, one thing I do want to say, just in case anybody from Hanover is listening to this, we had a super fan named Andre who was there all the time, who came to our show and then passed away like a day later. He'd been coming for years, and he's just a sweetheart of a guy. So I just want to acknowledge him and say rest in peace to him. He was a wonderful guy.
Damn, R.I.P. Good fan going to the shows. You got to love that. Yeah, nice.
Absolutely.
So as far as, obviously, you guys bringing in name talent and stuff, is that something you guys always do? Do you always bring over big names like Rhino, et cetera?
No, we've kind of saved that for the bigger event because I've wanted to make our in-house guys stars. I think a lot of places for too long they let their local guys kind of flounder, and then they put all the heat on guys who like Vince has made, or I guess not Vince anymore, but WWE's made, AEW's made, TNA, whatever promotion, WCW. And I'm determined to make sure that our guys are the stars. And then when we bring somebody else in, fantastic, like even better. Rhino's the guy who got me into Hanover for CWA years and years and years ago. So we've been pals forever. I was best man at his wedding. Like we're pals. So he's kind of the first guy on my list I'd want to have over anyways. Plus, it's a great excuse for him to come and visit his daughter who's over here. So it's kind of win-win-win for everyone.
Wow, I didn't realize his daughter lived over there. Wow, that's perfect.
Yeah. She came and did a couple of workouts at the wrestling school. She's a good kid.
Is she a future wrestler or no?
You never know. I mean, she's shown some interest. And she even in one session performed the gore. So who knows? That could spark the interest huge.
Damn, look at that. The next generation of Rhino there. Yeah, that's cool.
That's right.
Yeah, awesome.
Mind you, very few girls appreciate being called a Rhino, but hey.
Right.
Maybe she's the exception to the rule.
Yeah, true. So obviously he could be a guy you might want to bring back, or he might want to come back, Rhino, like and use him again.
I'd like to use him at least one gig a year. We have a couple of big shows. We have like 3 bigger shows a year upcoming. I think it's May, August, and December. Those are the 3 big shows of the year. And then we do the rest of the shows in the at the X Fights. So on the bigger shows, I'd like to bring him at least once a year if he's available. But he's running IWR in Michigan. And that's, from what I've seen, doing tremendously well. So I know he's got his hands full with that. And he owns 2 marinas in Monroe, Michigan. So, a lot of his summer's taken up, running the business. So if we can squeeze him out from there for 5 minutes to come and do a shot over here, more than likely he'll take it, partially because like he and I always have a million laughs, but it's nice to be able to get him together with his daughter.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty cool too. And then to be able to facilitate it, nice, and then use them in your league. Yeah, that's great. Perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
You mentioned FMW, by the way, in Japan, and
Yes.
were you there long? Like, how did that come about? How did you get in there? And obviously through Onita, I would imagine.
No, actually, what happened was is I was training in Toronto at Sully's gym, and it was like Sweet Daddy Siki and Ron Hutchison were the trainers. Ron's book came out, I think, a year and a half ago. I recommend it highly. It's fantastic. I'm on the cover, so I got to recommend it. But they were training me there, and I'd done a couple of small indies, but everything was so heavily regulated in Ontario. It cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to run a show. You just never make it back, on an indie audience. Like they just wouldn't, you'd have to charge too much for tickets for an indie audience to show up. So we just couldn't do anything. So the shots we had were very rare. I had three matches ever. And then 𝐇𝐎𝐒 𝐄 came in. Do you know 𝐇𝐎𝐒 𝐄?
Of course, yeah. Funny enough, I was just talking to his son not that long ago. But yes, of course, I know Tiger very well, yeah.
Well, Tiger came into the gym and he talked to Siki. Siki talked to me. He said, do you mind coming in during the week? Because I was a bouncer on the weekends. That was my job. So I had all my weekdays free. I just, on the nights on the weekends, I was, occupied.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, sure, I got time. They said, well, Tiger wants to send his son in to train with you for a few weeks because he's going to go to FMW. I was like, sure. I was just looking for more ring time. So he came in and we worked out for a couple of weeks. And I mean, he wasn't in any way polished. And truthfully, I wasn't overly polished. I just had been training longer. And I guess the martial arts helped me pick things up quicker. But we put some stuff together. Then Tiger Sr. came in, and after about 2 weeks, and said, okay, let's see what he can do. So we showcased a few things. And Tiger Jr. is a big guy. So he was really agile. I think, Tiger's pretty impressed. And he said, okay, thank you very much. Just kind of shakes my hand. And I'm like, okay, am I done? Like, is that thank you for today, or was that thank you for we're done,
Yeah.
He says, no, next week we're going to Japan. And I was like, I don't want to be a jerk, but are you sure he's ready? Like, I know I'm not ready. So, and I'm the guy who showed him stuff. Are you sure? And he's like, look, it's a tag team tournament. He's a big kid. He's intimidating looking. He's got the 𝐇𝐎𝐒 𝐄 name. He could do all the big moves that, I'm kind of past my prime in doing anymore. And it's a tag team tournament, so I can protect him in the tournament. He's exactly where I need him to be. Thank you so much for your help. So like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed it's over. So they went, and I guess it went really, really well. Because at the end, about a month and a half later, because they were gone for a month and a half later, Siki pulls me in the office and is like, listen, Joe, do you got a passport? I'm like, no. He goes, get one. I'm like, why? He goes, you're going to Japan. I was like, hey? He goes, yeah, Tiger's really thankful to you for helping get his son ready, so he got you a tour of Japan. I was like, but I don't know. He goes, you know everything you need to know to get, like, it's a blood and guts company. Like, you're not going to have to be Luthez to do anything. They're just, show up, listen, you'll get taken care of. It's like, all right. So it was Tiger who kicked open the door for me, but then Tiger wasn't even on the tour. So I was too green to be there, but I learned a ton. And one guy who was super, super helpful, and I thanked him 1,000 times, and I'll thank him 1,000 times more, in public. Obviously, I can't do it in person anymore. Sabu, who just was endlessly helpful to me when I got there. He found out I was Siki's boy, so he took great care of me, because Siki apparently took care of him when he broke in, and the Sheik didn't tell anybody that, Sabu was his nephew. So we would show up at like a little village at 3 a.m. Like, there's legitimately nothing there, just a hotel and a bunch of little shacks. And I was called Cowboy Billy Johnson for some reason. And so he goes, Cowboy, come here. And he'd take me, and we'd walk down this path and around the corner and behind this little house, and it's a restaurant. There's no rational reason for anybody to know that there's a restaurant here. But he'd make sure I never missed a meal. And sometimes he, I always offered to pay, but he'd never let me pay because I was the young boy and he was the vet. So he was endlessly helpful, but it was Tiger who got me in and Sabu who took care of me. That's how I got that. That's my FMW experience.
Nice. Very, very cool. And even before that, with Sweet Daddy Siki, is he your main trainer or is Ron the main trainer as far as when you were coming up?
Well, they kind of worked hand in glove. What happened was Ron was kind of physically in the ring. Siki, I believe, had a stroke, so he wasn't going to be as physical as he once was. He was still a big, strong, tough guy, but was actually amazing. Like his psychology was incredible. But he would sit there and he took a kick years ago right in the forehead, like right between the eyes from, I think it was Dan Crothett, and it crossed his eyes. And then from that point on, this one eye would always kind of tear up a lot. So he always had a tissue in his eye. He's always cleaning his eye. And it was me and Edge and Christian and Swinger and Zach Wild, all these guys. We're all in the ring and we put together this match. And all we did was just every move we ever knew. It was no psychology. It was god awful. I guarantee it. But we thought we were awesome. So at the end of it, Ron would just, all right, 1, 2, 3, thank God that's open. And then he just stand there and shredded on us. And we went from we're the best to we suck. But Siki the whole time was sitting on this bench and looked like he was falling asleep. He was like, kind of nodding off. So I thought Siki's taking a nap. This isn't helpful. And Ron goes through, the match was probably 20 minutes. And Ron goes through 15 minutes of critique. Right? None of it positive, but all of it correct, right? And then he goes, all right, so I've had enough of that. Siki, let me ask you, anything you want to add? And Siki doesn't even look up. He just kind of points at me and he goes, Joe, your feet were wrong on the headlock. And I go, son of a bitch, they were, weren't they? And he's using the force or something. The guy had spider sense for wrestling. Out of nowhere, he'd know all these little details. So Siki would give you little details on how to position your body and stuff, but Ron would get in there and physically do stuff with you to make sure you could do it right. They're both tremendously valuable. It wasn't one or the other. It was a combination.
He thinks Sweet Daddy Siki's not watching, but he's got the spider sense going on. He could sense everything that's going on out there.
The man was a genius. One thing that's really nice, if I can add this about Siki, I hadn't spoken to him in a while. I tried to contact him every so often just to check in, see how he's doing. And I know after he lost his wife, he was struggling a bit. So anyway, I called up Ricky Johnson to say, I want to make sure I have Siki's number because I want to give him a call. I haven't called him in a while. He says, I'm not sure. He's at his age, he's kind of mentally slow. I don't know what he'll remember. I said, well, I'm going to try. And Ricky was giving me the impression that maybe he wouldn't remember anything, like he was really struggling. But I contacted him. I go, it's Joe from Toronto and from Scarborough. And he took a minute. He goes, oh, yeah, you're in Germany, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. And he remembered me.
Wow.
He remembered me, and he remembered a couple stories. He forgot I was married to my wife. He remembered my girlfriend that he knew from when I was there. I mean, how he's never met my wife. But it was such a wonderful moment to know that he still remembered me after all that time and after everything he'd endured in his condition. I was able, apparently, I made him laugh a couple times. I was really able to put a smile on his face in, what was probably his last 3 months. So it's something I'm very grateful about.
Pretty awesome you were able to connect with him before he passed. That's awesome.
Yeah. I wish more guys would. Have.
And sharp as a tack, apparently, or certain people he'll remember. So that's good. He remembered you. That's a good thing.
He remembered me, so I don't know. So hopefully it was a good memory and not just this guy.
Yeah, not the guy that got the wrong feet lined up for the headlock.
Put a headlock on you, clumsy prick.
I was talking to Brett not that long ago, and he was really talking about how awesome Sweet Daddy Siki was, and I was like, really? He's like, oh, way better than you realize, and how great it was and stuff. So, he's definitely appreciated for sure, or was appreciated.
Yeah, well, Siki, I think sometimes the gimmick overshadowed the talent because he had the big blonde fro and he had the crazy glasses and the capes and he had the effeminate gimmick. To go in the '60s in Texas as a black guy and do the pretty much, stereotypical gay gimmick, he had to be taking his life in his hands every night. And he got out of it alive and well. So he had to be much of a hard case. And he was talking to me once about writing his own book because he had a whole bunch of stories about when he was hanging out with Martin Luther King. So he was, he wasn't just some guy in the background. He was, he was among the giants.
Very cool. Obviously, R.I.P. Sweet Day Siki. Not that long ago, passed away. So
Yeah, just this past year, man, made me sad.
When you're coming through, and obviously he's trained you, Ron's trained you, you're coming through. Do you ever look at Edge and Christian, and be like, oh, they're going to be something, or like they're going to make a WWE, or like, do you foresee that? Some people start they'll say oh, I saw Steve Austin when I trained him. I think he was going to be the big thing, or whatever. Did you see any of that for Edge and Christian when you were training with them?
I always thought they were good. The thing was that when Adam broke in, he came in. I remember seeing his first bumps, and he knocked the wind out of himself, and his eyes were sticking. I was like, okay, this could be a while. Right. Whereas Christian's first bump, he just took a bump. Okay, what's next? He just took it to it like a duck to water. He was just. I thought if Adam goes somewhere, Jay's not going to be far behind because Adam had a certain star quality to him. But I also got to see them at the beginning when they, when they're making their mistakes, when they're, messing up, when the psychology isn't sound, when they're just skitty. They hadn't really hit the weights yet, a million little things. So it's hard to say, if I were to see them in the shape and the gimmick and everything else that they had in WWE, I'd be like, yeah, they've built a star. But I got to see them back when they were the lump of clay before they became a star. I thought they had the ability. There's a ton of people I've seen the ability. I thought this guy's a lock, and then just never hear from him again. And other guys who have been like, that guy, and he's, making plenty of money in WWE or AEW. So it's hard to say one or the other. I did see, talent. I did see them pick up quick. But the amazing thing is how much Adam's been pushed. They have just smashed him over everywhere he's wanted to be. Jay, they haven't smashed over as hard, but I always felt they treated him as the kid sister of the team, but if anything, he might be the more talented of the two. He's so good.
I always thought that, even way back when they were, first ENC and WWE, when they first came in, I was like, man, this guy Christian, I know he's not as big as Edge. He doesn't have that look. Maybe doesn't have the charisma of Edge, but I always was like, wow, Christian is a way better in-ring wrestler, way better worker than Edge. And I was like, I'm surprised nobody else, obviously you noticed, but I'm surprised nobody else really says that as much. It's kind of shocking.
I don't know. Randy Orton says that Jay was his favorite opponent of all time.
That's true. Yeah. Yep.
So, and I just don't think Jay could get everywhere he's been and done everything he's done if he didn't have a lot of top guys kind of needling for him. Because Adam, he's done some TV shows, he's done some movies, he's done some outside of wrestling things to draw more attention to himself. Jay's just pretty much been wrestling. And I just, there's plenty of guys who were like Mr. Kennedy, talented, quality. He went to TNA and they didn't do nearly as much with him in TNA as they did with Jay. But Jay Jay can get himself over. You just got to get out of his way and let him do it. And I think I don't know, it's about trust. And I think a lot of people trust him. When they see him work, he gets over. When they see how well he gets over with Randy Orton, they see how well he gets over working with any number of the Undertaker's guys when they were doing the Ministry of Darkness thing. When they saw, all the stuff he did with the Dudleys and the Hardys and all that stuff, I think they're willing to take a risk with him. And it's always paid off. I can't remember seeing a bad Christian match.
Yeah, I feel like he's always on fire. He's always been great for such a long time. It's almost like he left WWE for TNA, and then he kind of proved who he was and how great of a worker is, and they brought him back, and then obviously AEW. But it was just one of those things where I don't know if he just
actually he walked.
He left on his own, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to be in WWE. He didn't want to wrestle anymore. But TNA, he lives in, at the time, I don't know if he's still there, but he was living in Florida. He's living in Tampa, which is an hour and change from Orlando. So the management from TNA drove down to Tampa to meet him and offer him a deal, and they talked him into it. But he was prepared to just not bother anymore. Because WWE just it's almost the Cody Rhodes thing where, you know, he's Stardust. He's not particularly happy with what he's doing. And he needed to, you know, as, you know, Jim Cornette would say, you know, how can I miss you if you won't go away type thing. He went away. And all of a sudden, he's carrying another promotion, the second biggest promotion on his back. He's the champ. WWE had to notice that. And he's also really over with Brian Kerwitz, who's in every production meeting. So, I mean, he could throw Jay's name in at any given moment. And I'm sure they'd always find a spot for him. They know even if it was just to help get other guys over, Jay would always be able to make money. But I think he's better than just a get everybody else over guy. He's a guy who can get over. They just need to get out of his way and let him do it.
Yeah, I always thought he was a hell of a good worker and
kind
of more talented than Edge in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a slight on Edge or anything. Like,
right, exactly. He's just great. Yeah, exactly.
He can fight his ass with both hands. But I think Adam, the companies have got Adam over more because the whole company gets behind him, whereas Jay gets himself over before the company gets behind him. I think they want to get Adam over. They have to put Jay over. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. And Edge, I mean, Adam, he has the look too. So it's like, okay, we could do something, 6'4", 250. Like we could do something kind of like the prototypical star look for, old school wrestling. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's over in the airport as they would say.
I love that. It's like, hey, who is that guy? He's I don't know, but he's somebody, right? He's famous. Yep.
Yeah, he turns heads when he walks through an airport. There's a charisma about him that draws people's eye. In turn, push the hell out of him.
Is that story true about Vince? Vince is like, okay, Edge, as far as like Edge, this guy looks like a star. And then he looks at Christian, I don't like the way this guy looks, or he didn't like Christian's look. Is that true?
I don't know for sure. I heard Jim Ross talking about it recently. He said there was something Vince had where he just didn't think enough of Jay. Like Vince has always had a thing with, from what I've seen of tag teams, there's always the push guy and there's the kid sister. And, there's Sean and there's Marty.
Right.
And if he gets his eye on one guy he thinks he wants to push, well, then great. Then that guy's going to stay on the apron. He's not going to have to sell. He's going to come in a House of Fire at the tag and win the match, and he's going to look great. And I think that's how he looked at Adam and Jay. Jay was small enough. Jay's not a particularly big guy. Like his frame is quite small. He's a well-muscled guy for his size, but he's still a small guy. But then you put him in with the acolytes, and they could toss him around, and Jay's a good enough bumper that he won't die in the process. So he could eat all the bumps that they didn't want Adam to take so that Adam could seem like a bigger force out there. Kind of like the Raven's flock would all eat shit until Raven came in and then DDT'd the guy. Dallas Page would give everybody a cutter, but then Raven would, blast. Kind of that thing where Jay was kind of, I don't want to say the punching bag, but in turn that just made Jay work harder to showcase himself so that people started to appreciate him. I think he earned respect a lot more than say Adam. Not to say that Adam isn't respect worthy, but I think Jay had to work harder to earn that respect because the office wanted to push Adam and use Jay to get Adam where he was going to go. And then Jay wound up, I think at this point, most people respect the heck out of Jay.
How did you end up getting in? Obviously, they were in before you, Edge and Christian. How did you end up getting in to WWE?
I was, I came in for a couple of tryouts, and I did. This is before they had the whole NXT thing, so they flew me into Connecticut for tryouts, and I got over with Terry Taylor and a couple of the other guys who were running the training center, and they were like, and Tom Prichard. And so they were like, okay, we like you. We don't have a thing for you, but, stay in touch. So I call him once a month just to remind him I'm alive type thing, but I was off working. And then out of nowhere, I was in Germany for my first tour. I call home, see how my parents are doing. My mom goes, yeah, some really hyper guy named Jim called for you. So Jim Carlson, as a Jim Cornette. And she's like, yeah, that sounds about right. I said, give me his number. And since it was payphones back then, I went and got like an armload of change so I wouldn't get cut off. And I called Jim, and he answered his phone right away. He's like, yeah, listen, we want to bring you in for some TVs. I got some ideas for you. I'm like, if you can guarantee me a job, I'll come now, but I'm in Germany right now. And he's like, for how long? I said, I got 6 weeks here. He's like, stay there. This is great. I'm like, I don't follow. It's great that I'm not anywhere near you. He said, wrestling's a bitchy girlfriend. It only wants you when somebody else does. He goes, I'm going to go to the office and say, we want to use this guy, but son of a bitch, he's too important. He's over on the other side of the world. They're pushing him to the moon. And they'd actually put the tag belts on me and Rhino. So, it was a good image for me when they're trying to pitch me the office. He said, just let me know when you're home. So I went home, but then I was only home for 3 weeks, and I had to come back to Germany for 5 weeks in Bremen. So I had to finish off the year in Germany. And then after I got back, they brought me in for another match. And I worked Val Venus in, Val's a pal, so he made sure it was competitive and wasn't just a squash. And they brought me in and for another training camp with me and Reckless Youth. We did a match at the training center there, and Terry Taylor hired us on the spot. And then they called me. It took them months and months, but they said, we want you to be in the new Freebirds. Michael Hayes wants to have the new Freebirds here. It's going to be you. It's going to be Scott Vick, and I think Reckless Youth. And you guys, and we want you to be the Terry Gordy of the team. And I'm like, okay. Like, on one hand, my style isn't really Terry Gordy's style, but okay, I see what you're saying. But I mean, I don't drink. I haven't had a drink since I was 20. Freebirds are notorious Jack Daniels guys.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly a fan of Southern Fried Rock, and I'm from Toronto, not the South. Are you sure I'm the guy for this gimmick? And Taylor's like, you want to get paid? I'm like, I do. He's like, all right, then this is what we want from you. He goes, you got to come down to the training center. We're going to work you out in a match and make sure Michael likes you. So I came down, and apparently Michael really liked me. So I got my deal. And they said, we want you to be ready for some date. We're going to debut you in Atlanta with Michael as your manager. I was like, all right, let's do this. And I get a call about 2 months before the Atlanta deal, and they say, listen, Mike's decided he doesn't want to be on air. He just wants to be an agent, so we're scrapping the Freebird thing. We'll think of something.
Damn.
And I sat at home for another 6 or 7 months before they brought me in, before they got my visa permanent and got me together. Any other time they had to slide me over the border because I didn't have a visa yet.
Wow, crazy. Damn.
Yeah.
Like, what could have been as far as the Freebirds there?
I don't know. I guess, I don't know. Maybe, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Terry may have passed by then. And Mike might have thought it was like distasteful to Terry's memory to try and replace him. So maybe that's why he just like, if Terry's not here, there's no Freebirds. Maybe he saw, like, when the Road Warriors brought in Heidenreich, and it just wasn't the Road Warriors anymore. Maybe he saw that and thought, it's if we can't do it right, I don't want to do it at all type thing. And if I can't get Terry's blessing, I don't want to do it. So I can appreciate that. I would have had fun with it for sure. But I can understand if that was the reason Mike was walking away, just wanted to do an agent thing. And to be honest, for tag team wrestling, I mean, he had a punch, a DDT, and the world's worst moonwalk. And the man was over for years. So, I mean, the guy knows something about getting over because it wasn't on, flashy moves and 5-star, super matches. He knew how to get over. So having him in our corner would have been great. So making him the top agent for the tag division was a smart move by the company.
And obviously, huge, great mind for the business. There's no doubt about it. But who's going to be the Michael Hayes of the group? That's Scott Vick. He would have been the Michael P.S. Hayes?
I think Mike would have been the Mike, honestly, because he'd still be the Mike. The Mike was pretty much the mouthpiece anyways. I think they would have had me doing the Gordy, and Reckless would have been the Buddy Roberts because he'd have been kind of the workhorse, the underappreciated workhorse who go out there and be a jerk enough, like, somebody hit these little creeps. And then we kind of beat up guys when he was eating too much crap type thing. Reckless was criminally underrated. He was a good worker, really good.
Man, I'm from New Jersey, and so I used to see him like
Oh, there
constantly
you go.
on the indie scene. So Tom Carter, Reckless Youth, he was awesome. He was literally probably the best guy, and there was a litany of great guys in Jersey. He's probably the best as far as
Yeah,
that
yeah.
crop.
In the '90s, there was a huge, you had what Lance Diamond, you had all those guys running through there who were just
Yeah,
all just
Ace
one
Darling,
talent
Devin
after another.
Storm, Steve Carino, yeah, a ton of guys.
And as one left, there was a talent to fill the void. It wasn't like everybody was scrambling to try and find somebody and drag them up. Like there was guys ready to take spots. And yeah, he was one of the top guys in a group of top guys, and just a really good person. Like Tom's, you could hang out with him every day. He's just a nice guy. He's not one of these
Crazy.
guys you got to babysit on the road because he's a big drinker or anything. He's just a genuine good soul. He deserved more than the business gave him.
If he came out like 5 years later, like when Bryan Danielson, those guys like really started blowing up, like that would have been great because then he would have been huge. But
Yeah.
when he came out, he was a little too small for WWE style.
Yep, I agree. The thing is, the best thing for him would have been some kind of a major run in Ring of Honor for WWE to step back and watch everything he can do, and not just one match. Oh, he can do a bunch of moves, but to see how he can play out an angle, how he can draw interest from the crowd, how he can do short or long matches, how he can make people on his back, how he can make people putting them on their back. He had the talent to do everything. Like he's really, really good. But I think WWE, he was at the size where they wouldn't take a risk on him until they saw the whole story. Whereas, a big monster like Goldberg, we got to put this guy on TV. He's a beast. We'll figure it out later. They'd want to figure Reckless out first.
So obviously, Freebirds gets canned, and you have to move on. Are you back when they bring you back as Joey Legend, or are they like, okay, we have this Just Joe gimmick for you, and we
God awful. Yeah, worst gimmick in wrestling history. What happened was 𝐓𝐇𝐄e called me at home and said, okay, I got to do this personality kind of quiz with you because, the best gimmicks are you with the volume turned up. That's what they tell me. So, all right. So he asked, what else have I done outside of wrestling? So, I did, I got black belts, karate, kung fu, and I played a bit of football and this and that and the other. And I talked about some of the stuff I'd done on the indies. And for Tony Condello in Manitoba, we did TV tapings. And then there was a northern tour, as they call it, the Hell Tours, up on the Indian reservations. And Don Callis was supposed to go, but at the last second, he said he got sick. I just think he didn't want to go because it is rough. So Bad News Allen, was kind of running things. And so they asked me, they said, do you mind working twice a night? Like you work as yourself at one point, but can we put a mask on you? You go out there in the opener and just put somebody over. Because it's a mask gimmick, who cares?
Yep.
I was like, well, I can use the extra money. So, okay, sure, why not? So they put me in this medical smock and a mask. They called me Dr. X. And I went out there and nobody bought it, right? So I pulled the ring announcer aside the next night and I told her, I said, tell them I'm from San Francisco General Hospital, Communicable Disease Ward. And I'm the male nurse. That's my gimmick, the male nurse. And she went with it. And I came out and basically it was very Gold Dust-ish. I swan about and I'd hump the ref's leg. And it was just totally silly cartoon haha, right? Mostly just to try and see if I could make Bad News laugh. So I did this whole angle just on the tour, just every night doing that. And I mentioned that to 𝐓𝐶 in that quiz he gave me. And they flew me in. I got the last flight out of Toronto before they closed the airport because of a blizzard. So they flew me out, and I had to wait all day at Titan. They got me at Titan around 10 in the morning. I didn't meet with Vince until like 5 in the evening. Me and 2 other guys. Can't remember who the other guys were. Nice guys, whoever they were. So I get in, and I think they delayed part of our meeting because Vince watched tape before he'd meet us. And he was super complimentary. He goes, I see. He goes, what is it with the water in Canada? All these guys, Jericho and Edge and Christian. He goes, and now you're like the halfway point between Mick Foley and Ted DiBiase. I'm like, wow, like I'm very flattered by this, right? He says, well, I'm going through this thing that Kevin interviewed you for. He said, I noticed a thing here called the male nurse. I'm like, oh, dear God, no. Like, please, no, for the love of God.
Yes.
And he said, he said, Kevin quotes you as saying it made Goldust look butch. And I'm like, just sweating bullets. I'm like, oh, dear Lord, no, no, no. And he looks up from his thing, and he's got his little Vince glass on, and he just goes, I never, ever, ever want to see something like that. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
So I was like in a panic. So we start shooting the breeze, and his wife came in and brought me coffee. Linda's the nicest lady in the world. And Bruce Prichard was there, and he was super, super nice to me. And he said, well, what do you have in mind for yourself? And I said, well, I have this idea of like cults. But I find cults scary because you can take a nice normal person under the right conditions, they'll kill somebody for you. So it's very manipulative. I think that's a good gimmick. And it's just right around the tail end of the David Koresh Branch Davidians thing. Yep. So I thought it was kind of timely as well. And he's like, oh, I don't like, we don't like to play with religion or anything like that. I'm thinking, Undertaker, brother love. What are you talking about? I don't say that, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yep.
He says he's not really into that. I said, well, another one, I think it'd be good because we're also at the tail end of kind of the grunge era. I said, let me cut my hair off short and, wear a suit and tie and all this and just say that, the youth of the world are mixed up, messed up, stop with the face tattoos and the piercings. It's time to straighten up and fly right. And I'll have a group called the Moral Majority. It's like, I don't see that having legs. And then, of course, the right to censor comes out, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I keep kind of coming back to the cult leader thing to him. I just think this has legs. He goes, I just don't want to do, kind of the religious thing. I said, but I'm not saying I'm God. I'm just saying I'm a messenger, but I'm obviously a manipulative jerk. And then he does the whole, like, Mr. May, the messenger. Don't blame me. I'm just the messenger. And he got really high on this thing, talking to me about it. He got really excited. So I'm like, okay, this is going right. And he got Bruce to look in. He said, go to legal, see, if we can trademark messenger and all this. And it kind of got to the point where it was going to be like a paid informant. And eventually I'd kind of be associated with the acolytes. Like they're the hired muscle. I'm the money guy. They pay me the money and I paid the acolytes type thing, right? And it would be like Crash Holly would be sitting there, oh God, Taz is going to kill me today. And then I'd be like, yeah, he could kill you if you didn't know about his injuries. Like, what injuries? Then I show him an x-ray. Tore his bicep off. He's a mess. Yeah. You go after the arm, you could win. So then he wins. And I show that I've got all the inside scoop on everybody. And that's kind of my Weasley way of getting in on it. And he seemed high on it. And then by the time we got to TV, they gave me this writer named Jamie, who was an imbecile. And it turned into the god-awful piece of crap you saw on TV by the time I got there. Where they just wanted to use me to get over the Hunter Kurt thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Hunter, Kurt's trying to screw your wife. Hey, Kurt, Hunter's slapping Stephanie. And then you got to pull me off of it because otherwise the heat all switches to me and it wasn't meant to be switched to me. It's meant to get that angle over. So I understand pulling me off, but they didn't have any plans for me beyond that. And that's what ultimately euchred me.
Damn. Just Joe. Like, know what I mean? It's like a weird thing. He's just Joe. It's like it's kind of a weird like name for a gimmick for a guy. It's like, doesn't make it seem that important.
Well, it was the dumbest gimmick. I kept saying them over and over again. Like I remember pulling Gershwitz aside at one point. I said, okay, I got to ask, in these backstage stooge bits, am I lying or am I telling the truth? He goes, well, what difference does it make? I'm like, well, it makes all the difference. I said, if I'm telling the truth, then I'm actually a good guy. I'm actually trying to help people. And, it's blowing up my face. But if I'm lying, why am I lying? Because, why would I bother?
Right.
Why would I? There's got to be a reason for me to do it. There's got to be a reason for me to be doing this.
Right.
You can't just lie for the sake of lying. It doesn't go anywhere. He's like, oh, we'll figure it out later. And of course, they never did. So they didn't understand the gimmick. So in turn, how am I supposed to do anything with it? Every suggestion I made, they kind of would, pardon me, undermine it. So like I say, once the Hunter angle got off, they didn't need me anymore. So they didn't put any thought to it.
No long-term plan there. No long-term booking.
Yeah. They sent me to Memphis for a while to try and rebuild the gimmick, and then they didn't do anything in Memphis. They just kept screwing things up there. So then they bought WCW. The day they bought WCW, they sacked me and Jason Sensation from there. But we're both Canadian. So they were paying for us, and they're paying for visas and all this stuff. So it made sense if they had no plans for us for the next year, and there's no competition for us to go to kind of draw attention away from them. It made sense not to have us around. At any given time, they could have called us and we probably would have come back.
Yep. Were they ever going to do anything with you and Joey Abs as a tag team? Was that ever going to like flourish? Was that ever a thought or no? Because it seemed like, didn't you guys team a bunch?
Yeah, they put us in like dark match. We worked each other a bunch of times, and they put us in tags. And they seemed to go in that direction for a minute, and then they had some angle for the Mean Street Posse. They had to throw the posse gimmick back on them. And then they pull them away and they throw them back on the posse. So they seemed like they were kind of experimenting, but they didn't quite know what to do with it. The best part was we were working in Denver, which is, Mile High City. And so we're going over ideas of what we're going to do in our match, blah, blah, blah. And then Eddie Guerrero come up and he says, listen, guys, not for nothing, but you're in Denver, right? I'm like, yeah, thanks. Like I didn't know. He says, no, we're up high here. The air's thin, slow it down. And he kind of walks away. And I remember Joey and I looked at each other like, he just doesn't want us. He wants us to slow down because he wants to be lazy and he doesn't want us to go faster and outwork him and da-da-da-da-da. Foolishly. And we get out there and get in the ring, and like 2 minutes into the match, like, Eddie wasn't screwing around. Couldn't get a breath of air. So after the match, we both went up to him and like, Mr. Guerrero, listen, sir, just want to shake your hand and say, I'm sorry for everything I thought you were doing to us.
Yeah.
You weren't trying to dick us around. You were actually trying to help us, and we weren't appreciative. And he's like, guys, did the same thing because me and Dean Malenko had a match here, and everybody told us to slow it down, and we we're like, shut up, you don't know what you're doing. And then we went out there and we were on oxygen masks when we got when we got out of the ring. So I in turn used that for a team of the Chikara guys. I did a show in Austria up in the mountains. And I told all them the same thing. Yeah, we're up in the mountains, watch your breathing. And they all looked at me like, soft grandpa. After the match, one at a time. Hi, sir. Thank you so much for the advice. So I think it's just a thing in the business. We all gotta be selfish dicks until we realize somebody's actually trying to help us.
Right. Do wrestlers just naturally think everybody's trying to work them? Is that like a definite thing with all wrestlers?
Well, in WWE, everybody's always looking over the shoulder because everybody's trying to get ahead. It's a shame to see it on so many indies, to watch people politic there. It's ridiculous. But WWE, like, your position on the card can be the difference between $2,000 and $10,000. So a lot of guys are trying to, crowbar their way into a spot and keep it. Then, when you're older and your body's breaking down a bit and you're not quite as nimble as you used to be, and some young guys coming in and doing your old moves better than you did them before, you got to try and find a way to stay relevant. You can work harder and, maybe alter your style. Scott Steiner altered his style and became world champion. So it can be done. But a lot of guys take the other road, like calling spots. You'll see a lot of old-time British guys will call, if they get an American or Canadian in the ring, they'll call the match with old-school British terminology so that the young guys, what are you talking about? And the match doesn't go well. And then the old guy goes to the promoter, who he clearly is in good with because he's still there at his age. So, the kid doesn't know what he's doing. I told him, what to do. The kid knew exactly what to do. You just called it in a way you knew he wouldn't understand.
Right. Wow.
Like tackle, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss, like international hip toss. Or actually, we'll go hip toss, we'll go tackle, drop down, leapfrog, sunset flip. old British terminology would be shoulder sleep vault rolling Nelson. Now, how's a kid who's never been to England before? He goes his first day. They put him in with an old timer to make sure he's, competent. And the old guy calls that. Poor kids, being set up to fail. So I can't imagine if that happens, in Britain. I can't imagine it's not going to happen in the biggest money market in the business, right? WWE.
Right, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was a story too. Jericho had told years ago about a guy he was working. And he mentioned something to him, and the guy didn't understand the terminology. And he said he wasn't like trying to mess. He just couldn't believe the guy that wasn't getting the terminology. And I guess maybe did they change terminology over the year, or was Jericho working the guy and he didn't want to admit he's working the guy? Like, what do you think? Like that was interesting. I was like, wow, the guy didn't understand, or maybe Jericho was messing around.
Another thing could be that it's like sometimes you learn. Like now, the terminology is kind of universal because the business become a much small. Even though it's more widespread, it's a smaller place because everybody wants to go to WWE. So like. In pro wrestling, by and large, we work to the left. Our left arm drag, I put a headlock on my left side, stuff like that. But Mexico and France used to be on the right-hand side. But now everything's kind of shifted to the left. So maybe if Jericho had gone to, like, if this story had taken place in England, and Jericho's like, okay, I know the British terms, and he went and called the British terms to the young kid. The young kid only knows the modern terminology. Like if I were to call an ace crusher for a lot of guys, they wouldn't know I'm talking about a stunner. Or an RKO.
Yep.
Just because my terminology would be out of date, I'd be using too old terminology. But maybe Chris was just trying to use the old time to be respectful of the territory. But the young guys didn't even know their history, so it went all pear-shaped on them.
Interesting. Yeah. Crazy, the terminology stuff, like the inside baseball stuff can get crazy, which is.
Yeah. Like Chris is a good guy. I mean, he's a pro. I don't think he'd sabotage it. He'd put a ha-ha in the match for a good laugh for the boys, but he wouldn't do it at the expense of the audience. Gotcha. He knows where his bread's buttered, and he knows the audience are buying tickets, so he wouldn't screw the audience just to get a laugh. I know a lot of guys who would, but Chris isn't one of them. Chris is a pro.
Now, as we hit the wind down here, head towards the finish, because I know you've got handball going on, and obviously, you got to pick them up. Yeah, you got to pick them up. So you got that going on, but also because we got to get you on again, and we got to talk about the second book. So, when that comes out, so we'll have to get you back on. But give us one last big push of why everybody should get. And no, I don't know you either. The Joey Legend book part 1.
I tried to write it conversationally. It's not like I got Brett's book and Chris Jericho's book at the same time. And I was on vacation, so I read them kind of back to back. Brett's was very clinical, right? Like Jericho's like, it was July in 87 or 88. It's kind of hot out. I think it was Mexico, and we did this, right? Whereas Brett's book is like September 25th, 8:14 a.m. There was a mild breeze coming out of the southwest. Like, he is so detailed, like clinically. And at times you're just like, what happened? Just tell me. Stop setting up atmosphere and tell me what happened. I try to write more in the conversational way, and it's a few laughs, and especially for guys who know the last of the indies. Before indies were pretty much swallowed up for almost exclusively WWE to take over everything. There's stories about the hell tours and the in northern Manitoba, and just all the stuff that you don't see on day-to-day life when you watch WWE. Or does WWE have some kind of behind-the-scenes show out now?
Yeah, Unreal it's called. Yeah, yep.
That's the one. This will be nothing like Unreal, because Unreal is kind of polished stuff with guys making $millions. These are stories about guys making $30-$40 a match, doing it for the love of the game. It's kind of like Rudy. You're doing it for the love of the game. You're beating the crap out of yourself. But son of a bitch, if this wasn't so fun, I'd probably just get a paper rub. But this is too much fun. So the book is fun. It's not meant to be, any kind of a moral lesson or anything like that. Here's a bunch of fun crap that happened to a guy. And he's 56 now. He's got 2 hip replacements. He beat asthma to be able to travel to 46 countries. He's had 2 TV series. And it all started here. So that's what kind of what this book is.
I love it. And of course, where can everybody get the book?
It's on Amazon. I'll have the link. There we go. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. I can probably send the link to you because the link is all complicated. It's like a ransom note. I'll send you the link if you want to post it.
Yes,
but
I will.
It's a fun read. So far, everybody who's read it has written me and told me they really like it. So I know I like it, but I was there. I'm hoping I can do the points well enough that other people like it too. I've been it's been a tough grind, but son of a bitch, I'm blessed.
And where could everybody find you on social media? Do you do a lot of Twitter, Instagram, X, all that stuff?
I am on. I'm on Twitter, Lord Joey Legend, because I am a Scottish lord.
Wow, nice.
I'm on Instagram. I think it's Joey Legend. I don't know how I got Instagram. A buddy of mine sent me a video. I think it might have been Chris, my buddy. He's the bass player for Anvil. He sent me a video, and I click here, and all of a sudden it came up on Instagram, and I had an Instagram account. I don't know how the hell I did it.
Whoa. Wow.
So I have an Instagram account. I think it's under Joey Legend. On Facebook, there's a couple of Joey Legend accounts. If there's a little picture in the corner with a white background of me with my Japanese belt, that's the one I look at most for professionally. But if they want to go under my real name, Joe E. Hitchen, HITCHEN, just like kitchen with an H, that's the one I'm usually on the most. I should be far more professional than I'm actually being with my social media.
And is your school on there too? Your wrestling school?
If you go through my stuff, I'm always posting stuff from the school and for the upcoming events. Catch Wrestling Promotions of Hanover.
And if anybody wanted to find or follow that on social media, that's what it's under, just Catch Wrestling of Hanover.
CWP Wrestling or Catch Wrestling Promotions. And to reach me, legendwrestling@hotmail.com.
All right. Awesome. Joe E. Legend. Just Joe. Thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I very much appreciate it.